Three companies told you they were saving the planet. Smaller packaging, less waste, a cleaner future for your family. They launched an environmental initiative, held meetings about sustainability and ran ads about how much they cared. The whole time, they were fixing the price of your laundry detergent for 3 years, across 8 countries. And they called their secret cartel meetings the Clean Team. This is the story of how Procter Gamble, Henkel and Unilever turned an eco-friendly campaign into a price-fixing operation, got caught by their own partner and ended up paying 315 million euros for the privilege. But this story doesn't start with the fine. It starts with trust. In the early 2000s, if you walked into any supermarket in Europe, the laundry aisle looked like a war zone. Ariel versus Persil versus Omo. Bold colors, aggressive slogans, promises of whiter whites and fresher scents. These 3 companies, Procter Gamble, Henkel and Unilever, controlled roughly 2/3 of every detergent sale on the continent. Belgium, France, Germany, Greece, Italy, the Netherlands, Portugal, Spain. 8 countries. Hundreds of millions of households. And the advertising made it look like these brands were ripping each other apart for your business. They weren't. Behind the scenes, the competition was a performance. A carefully choreographed show designed to make you believe you had a choice. You picked Ariel over Persil, thinking you were making a decision. You switched from Omo to Fairy because of a sale. But the prices were already agreed. The market shares were already locked. Your choice meant nothing because all 3 companies were sitting in the same room deciding how much you'd pay. But here's where the scheme actually began. In 2002, a trade body called AISE, the Association Internationale de la Savonnerie, launched a legitimate environmental initiative. The idea was simple: reduce packaging waste by compacting detergent formulas. Smaller boxes, same cleaning power, less landfill. Good for the planet. Except, these 3 companies saw something else entirely. They saw an opportunity. If everyone was going to shrink their packaging at the same time, nobody needed to compete on price during the transition. The meetings were already scheduled, the executives were already in the room, and the cover story was already built in. So they sat down at what they called Clean Team meetings and agreed on something that had nothing to do with the environment. They agreed not to undercut each other. They agreed to stabilize market shares so nobody gained an advantage. They agreed to keep prices stable while packages got smaller. And then, once the transition was complete, they agreed to collectively raise prices across all 8 countries simultaneously. The price per wash went up. The boxes got smaller. And consumers were told this was progress. Every major supermarket in Belgium, France, Germany, Greece, Italy, the Netherlands, Portugal and Spain was selling detergent at prices that had been decided in a back room. From January 2002 through March 2005, the scheme ran uninterrupted. If you're watching corporations use environmentalism as a cover story for price fixing and you want to see more of them get caught, hit subscribe. I cover a new corporate disaster every week. While all of this was happening, something much larger was at play. These weren't small adjustments. Academic studies later estimated that the cartel inflated prices by 6.7 to 6.9% across all affected markets. That's nearly 7% on every box of Ariel, every bottle of Persil, every bag of Omo sold in 8 European countries for 3 years. The total consumer damage? Roughly 315 million euros stolen from household budgets across the continent. And the genius of it, from their perspective, was that nobody noticed. When you buy detergent, you don't compare this month's price to last month's. You don't track the price per wash across brands. You grab what you always grab and move on. These companies knew that. They were counting on it. Even switching brands didn't help, because P&G owned Ariel, Dash, Bold, Daz and Fairy. Unilever owned Omo, Surf, Skip and Persil in Britain and France. Henkel owned Persil across most of Europe, plus Perwoll and vice versa. You couldn't escape the cartel even if you tried, because they owned nearly every option on the shelf. But everyone else in the market managed to follow the rules. Private label brands competed fairly. Smaller manufacturers innovated without colluding. Only the 3 biggest players, the ones with the most to gain and the least to fear, decided the rules didn't apply to them. Together they controlled 60% of the entire European laundry detergent market. And they used that dominance to lock prices in place, while pretending to fight each other on television. The Clean Team label was supposed to sound ethical. Responsible executives discussing environmental cooperation. That's the kind of thing that makes accountants cry. Because behind every Clean Team meeting was a simple agreement. Don't compete. Keep prices identical and use the Green Initiative as your alibi. But the clock was already ticking, they just couldn't hear it yet. In 2008, 3 years after the cartel ended, Henkel's internal compliance auditors stumbled onto something that didn't add up. Pricing patterns that were too consistent, market shares that never moved, coordination that went far beyond environmental cooperation. On the 13th of May, 2008, a Henkel lawyer walked into the offices of DG Competition in Brussels carrying a thick dossier. They filed for immunity under the EU leniency program. Full confession, every detail, every meeting, every agreement. The names, the dates, the coordination methods, the pricing strategies, all of it handed over on a plate. And here's the part that makes it perfect. Henkel was one of the 3 cartel members. They helped build the scheme, participated in it for 3 years, and then blew the whistle on their own partners to avoid paying a single euro in fines. Procter Gamble and Unilever had no idea what was coming. Within weeks, Commission investigators arrived unannounced at P&G and Unilever offices across Europe. June 2008. Dawn raids. Officials presenting inspection decisions, sealing rooms, imaging hard drives, and pulling meeting notes that confirmed everything Henkel had already confessed. Both companies scrambled. P&G filed their own leniency application on the 8th of September 2008, hoping for a reduced fine. They got 50% off. Unilever followed on the 2nd of October 2009 and got 25% off. Everyone was now racing to confess, because the only thing worse than being caught in a cartel is being the last one caught. And on top of those reductions, all 3 companies received an additional 10% settlement discount for admitting guilt without dragging the case to court. By January 2011, all 3 companies submitted formal settlement admissions. They acknowledged the infringement, they accepted liability, and on the 13th of April 2011, Commissioner Joaquin Almunia stood in the Berlaymont press room and read the verdict. 315.2 million euros in total fines. Procter & Gamble, 211.2 million. Unilever, 104 million. Henkel, 0. Complete immunity. Almunia said it plainly. They used this environmental initiative to agree on market share and to agree on not reducing the prices even if the packages were smaller. P&G spokesman Paul Fox responded with a masterpiece of corporate emptiness. It's our policy to comply with the letter and spirit of all laws everywhere we do business. Which, looking back, was either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid, given they had just admitted to fixing prices across 8 countries. Unilever's response was even better. The fine falls below provisions already made in the company's 2010 results. Translation? We already set aside the money because we knew this was coming. That's not a defense. That's a confession wrapped in accounting language. And the consumers who overpaid for 3 years? The hundreds of millions of households across 8 countries who paid almost 7% more for their detergent? They got nothing. The fines went to the EU budget. There was no compensation scheme, no refund program. You paid more for your laundry and the money disappeared into corporate balance sheets. The case did trigger one lasting change. It helped push through the EU Antitrust Damages Directive in 2014, which made it easier for cartel victims to sue for compensation. A rebuttable presumption that cartels cause harm, better disclosure rules, clearer liability, all because 3 companies decided to fix the price of soap and got caught by their own partner. Henkel sold Persil and walked away clean. Procter & Gamble paid 211 million and issued a compliance statement. Unilever absorbed the fine into last year's provisions and retrained their managers. The brands are still on your shelf. The prices are still set by the same 3 companies. The only difference is that now they know someone might be watching. That was 315 million euros in fines for fixing the price of something you buy every month without thinking. The next company I'm covering didn't just overcharge consumers. They bribed their way to a monopoly, and the EU caught them with the receipts.